Welcome. This is Sal Albanese, and our podcast is running against the wind. We have had some interesting guests, and today we're going to talk about the 11th congressional district. That's where I live, and basically encompasses Staten Island and part of southern Brooklyn. I was a councilman in the Bay Ridge and in Brooklyn, and now I live on Staten Island. Lived here for a number of years, 8 years actually. And I consider it a purple district. It's been represented by Democrats and Republicans over the years. Presently, we have an incumbent who's a Republican, a staunch Trump supporter. Of course, when you run against an incumbent, as people know, it's a tough race, right? Because of incumbency and all the benefits that come with it. But I think this year, given the fact that Trump is at 32% in favorable rating and the disaster that's going on with a number of problems, including the Iran war and the gas prices skyrocketing, I think a Democrat, this is my view, who has enough money to get their message out can upset the incumbent. Today, I'm interviewing and talking with one of the Democratic candidates, somebody that I've known for a while. His dad taught with me in junior high school in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
He's been active politically and in the civic arena for years, and I know he just qualified for the ballot. His name is Mike DeCillis. Mike, welcome. Let's start by talking about what are you doing now and what's your background?
Sure. My background is that I'm a fourth generation Staten Islander, third generation union. I've spent about 35 years in public service now. So I had 10 years as a paramedic. I was a 9/11 first responder. I did over a decade in the NYPD before being injured in the line of duty. I was a New York City special education teacher. I was a civil litigation attorney, chief of staff, New York State Assembly. Um, And then I was also assistant counsel to the New York City Districting Commission, which just redistricted last year the 51 city council seats. And then since then, I've been very active politically in the district on Bay Ridge and the Staten Island side, getting Democrats elected. And last year, I've held numerous rallies, protests, and town halls in the district, some of the largest they've had. And some were general town halls. I've held immigration town halls, Medicaid, Medicare rallies here, and we just had a third one now, which I wasn't involved in organizing. But the first two events we brought out literally last year, thousands of people who started to get engaged in the process. And these are people who typically weren't engaged. These are people who are finally uh, they're they're coming out and they're realizing in some way or another they're being affected, whatever that is, by the policies of the Trump administration, by the policies of the government, and they're saying, enough. That's it.
Yeah, and that's an impressive background. I knew you were active over the years. I didn't realize. I know you were a police officer for 10 years,
Mhm.
and now are you teaching now?
I'm not. No, no.
No. Okay.
This running is now my full time gig. So,
That's important, by the way, because I ran when I was a teacher for city
mhm,
council in Brooklyn, and I took a leave because you really can't campaign and devote full time to it without
absolutely.
putting 100% of your effort into it. So, why are you running?
Well, a lot of this work that I have done over the years, a lot of the work that I've done is all public service based. It's all community based. I've been out in the street literally for over 20 of those years, of those 35, and all over the city, all over the district. This is the best way I can see to continue the service that I've already done on a larger scale. This is the best way for me to work on a larger policy and funding scale for a lot of the different projects, a lot of different things that I've been involved and invested in over the years, in a way that's going to make the greatest difference in the lives of the people in the district.
Uh, so, um, what are the key issues that you're going to be focusing on?
Well, the biggest one is restoring democracy. Whether or not people are paying attention, not paying attention, our government has stopped functioning. Just the normal, actual administration of government services is grinding to a halt. The institutional knowledge of tens of thousands of federal employees has been lost through Doge's firings. just inept firings that were not done for any purpose or reason and wound up costing us actually more money, not saving us anything. I'm running because there are no guardrails, enforceable guardrails. And so we have an executive branch that has decided it's the only branch of government, that Congress does not matter anymore, that the judiciary doesn't can be ignored. And that basically grift and crime is and corruption is in the open is okay. And again, and they're doing this at the cost of us. They're doing this by literally spending money where they want to spend it, taking money where they want to take it, and then giving everybody less. And this has to stop. We need to have a hard reset. We need to really start refocusing what government, the point and purpose of government is. And I just want to stress that when I talk about restoring, government and government services, I'm not talking about just pre-Trump, because what we had 10 years ago, that wasn't working for us either. I'm talking about the degradation and the corporate injection of money and the changing of our taxation and our landscape about 50 years ago. And looking at like the influence of money in corporations, the influence of reducing all taxation across the board for both corporations and billionaires, and then putting all of that burden on the lower 98% and saying, you're going to be responsible now for all of this. So everything we've done, every time they say we're getting a tax break, we're not, because in our toll-based economy, we're now paying more for absolutely everything. So our generation is doing, my kids will do worse off than I did, and I'm doing worse off than my parents did, and it's going in the wrong direction. So we need to really take a holistic approach and say, you know what are we doing here? And how could we change this in a way that's not just stops what's going on, but starts reversing some of the damage that's been done to us? The other priorities I have are a lot of the priorities that will directly affect people here when it comes to, well, extending that. So taxation, progressive tax policy that's going to benefit people here. Trying to reduce costs is going to be a big thing. The way that we're going to do that is by making corporations start paying, a fair share again. And we used to have a corporate tax rate in the 1950s that was approaching 52% for corporations and a marginal tax rate personal of 91%. I'm not advocating for those numbers. What I'm saying is that back then corporations were wealthy. They made money. They were innovating. They weren't fleeing New York City. So these are, we can look every time we talk about even gently raising any tax on corporations. Somehow we're taking bullets for billionaires and saying, no, we need to shield them from this. And that's absolute nonsense. So we need to just dispel the myths that corporations will not live through this. The corporate profits, as opposed to what they're actually paying in wages, has never been at such a great rift as we've had. So a lot of it is looking back and saying, a lot of what happened in the 50 years towards a lot of policies, healthcare, education, free public college, all these things have disappeared. And so now everybody's paying more for absolutely everything. And just being able to survive has been almost impossible. Nobody is being able to save. We don't have, the pension system is almost gone, except for some civil service pensions, replaced by 401ks, which people borrow against every time there's, something that happens. So we're not in a good position as a country, like when we're looking at how we are doing generationally. And I'd like to take a hard look at that. And I'd like to actually start taking some drastic steps to turn that around.
So you're basically saying that your main thrust is economic fairness
Yes.
and a political system that's broken. Is that accurate? And as you campaign throughout the district, does that resonate with folks?
Yeah, I mean, different things resonate with different people. But what I said earlier is kind of what hits it, that people are starting to feel it in one way or another. They're starting to really feel it. They've been feeling it. It's just that we've been frogs in, slowly boiling water here, where we haven't recognized how bad it's gotten. But when you stop and look at where it was even 30 and 40 years ago, there's a dramatic shift in our prevailing wages and productivity. There's a huge shift in what our pensions are worth and what tiers were available. There's a ginormous shift into being able to afford housing as a percentage of your income, what it now takes to actually buy a house, as compared to, 30, 40 years ago. So when you look at the basic, kitchen table economics, yes, that resonates. And when you have things that are going on now, like the tariffs that cost every family in America between $1,000 and $2,000 more last year, when you're looking at the war in Iran right now, that is now going to be costing It's not just your gas tank. It's anything that needs to be moved in this world by fuel is going to go up, which includes all airline prices, all goods that are being shipped anywhere by freight, by, so there's a dramatic cascading effect that is going to be lasting regardless of how Trump feels this will, fall quickly. But we're going to feel it. Last year was tariffs. This year is this. And so we do need to, it's been resonating. People are responding to it. They're also just responding to the fact that, we don't have, in order for us to have policies that work, any policy, in order for us to have to legislate, last year was the lowest functioning Congress, least productive Congress in modern history. They're just not producing legislation. They're not doing anything. And people want that. They do want that. They want to go back to, making America boring again. They want our government to be boring and to not have to worry about what they're doing on any given day that is going to upend their lives, because that's where we are right now. So, I think reducing, our anxiety is going to be helpful. And we do that by restoring some degree of normalcy and democracy and regular procedure to the process of actually legislating so that we can have policy discussions. A lot of the time I say is we can have policy discussions. I have absolutely zero issue with people who differ with me on what they want tax policy to be on different issues, but not when it comes to actually what makes us American. Not when it comes to the unconstitutionality or illegality of most of the actions that have been taking place and are thankfully being stopped by some courts. But that is where we are, and it's a very precarious place.
So how do you envision getting that message across the district to, especially on Staten Island, where you had a huge Trump support in the past, right?
Yeah.
I take the South Shore of Staten Island, which is heavily Republican.
Yeah.
How do you get those folks to understand what's happening and who should be held accountable?
Well, a lot of the people that came to our events last year and people who support me now are Republican. We've been getting not just Democrats and people who are independent and center. We've been getting and pulling Republicans as well, who want the message of functionality. They don't like the direction this is going. Even if they voted for Trump, they see that a lot of the policies at this point are destructive, that they're inhumane, and are or torturous to some people. And we have to recognize too that there's a lot of support. There's a lot of Trump support, but the district is 41% Democrat and is 27% Republican. And I know we throw those numbers around. There's 26, 27% independent. There's a large field in the middle there to pull from. The district is also almost 50% non-whites, 30% immigrant. We have very large pockets of groups of communities of people who have been operating in silos and have not been involved in the process as much. They've sat it out because there hasn't been anybody to really engage with. They needed to rebuild trust with any political machine. They needed to be brought into this umbrella of communities that can actually combat this. And so that's a lot of what I've been doing, is repairing the damage over the past 2 years of what has happened in prior Democratic politics, specifically to try to rebuild trust in these communities, that there is a way for you to be heard. There is a way for you to have political power in the sense of your voice can be heard and you can affect policy. So bridging a lot of these different communities together has been something that I've really been working on, and recognizing as well that we have 38% of the district in Brooklyn. It's a fairly large number. It's 230 plus thousand people on this side, that make up, as I said, it's diverse. It's much more diverse than I think when we look at the snapshot of New York 11. We're always constantly thinking about like what do you do, like the South Shore. We're looking at those type of.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's it's a portion of the district, but it's not the majority of the district. I mean, so
but it's one of the loudest parts of the district, and that's been, and politically unified. The Republicans in this district have been lockstep when it comes to registering voters, when it comes to being a machine, a political machine that gets people elected. And that's where, the Democrats in this district have failed for the most part.
well,
And
but I think, I mean, because I've obviously, I'm familiar with the dynamics there. And I think if you're Mickey Mouse, you can win on that line on the South Shore locally. That's, I mean, it's just that the type of, I'm not sure it's due to Republican machine instead of the polarization that we have in place.
Oh yeah,
You like
I meant efficiency more than anything. They are good at getting candidates out. They, for one thing, they run candidates. We can't say that about the Democratic Party on Staten Island very often. They very infrequently will run a candidate in every available seat or open seat, and they don't have a bench to pull from of candidates that people would be enthusiastic or excited to work on. They need to, and I've discussed this with them over the years, and in ways that we can improve communication, fundraising, building a bench, things like that. So, I mean, one of the things I'm personally doing in my campaign is I hire people exclusively from the district, from these communities, because we have a good district with talented people right here, and
so
I intend to also hire. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what is the problem with the Democratic Party leadership that they don't have a bench, that they don't run candidates from every district? What's the main obstacle to that?
I think some of that is, I mean, if I venture a guess, it's a lot of it has to do with inter-party communication of what their goals are. What is it that you want to do as a party? Do you want to elect Democrats? Do you want to, I mean, what should be the goal, right? I mean, that would be, you want to make sure that you're doing this. And so I think there needs to be a process where you're not waiting for people to show up and run. You're incentivizing them to run. You're demonstrating and bringing them into different positions of real, of not power, but you're bringing them into the political operations of the offices that are there. So they're not answering phones. They're in the back. They're working on budgets. They're working on the community strategy. They're working on policy, and they're learning the process. And you're diversifying that bench to look more like the district itself, so that the people have somebody that, that resonates with them, that looks like them, and that they would go out and actually affirmatively vote for, not just vote for them because they have a D after the name.
Yeah, so you're saying that the party should be more proactive in recruiting and bringing people into the fold.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
well, I agree with that
Yeah.
100%. Let me, one of the big problems that most Americans are aware of is that the political system is broken, especially with the influence of big money. I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a big campaign finance guy. I promoted when I was in the Charter Revision Commission democracy vouchers, which they use in Seattle, where every voter
Hmm.
gets two gets two $25 vouchers, and they can donate to anyone running for municipal office. And it's done a great job there, and it puts everyone on an even level, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that you don't have to go out and beg for money from big donors. I would love to see that implemented on a national level. There
Hmm.
are bills in the House that basically emulated what's going on in Seattle. So, I mean, how do you feel about campaign finance reform? How do you feel
Oh
about
yeah.
the
Well,
vouchers?
the way that we change things is by turning off the spigot. The money is drowning all conversations, and it's drowning the voice of a majority of Americans. We are both parties, corporate parties that are run by the biggest dollar donors, the biggest PACs, and so it doesn't even the playing field at all. It does the opposite, and we have an entrenched political system that protects the corporate class and protects billionaires. Um, so I mean, enacting campaign reform would be, part of the first step in restoring any type of a representative democracy, because we're falling away from that and have been for the past 50 years. Um, and there's different ways to do that. The biggest way is to literally stop this kind of endless dark money donation of Citizens United, and to try to strip some of that back. And you have to have, and this is where it's tricky, you have to have people elected who have that moral courage, frankly, and the ability to say these things and then enact these things and find enough other people in Congress to actually push and advance bills like that. Um, for the purpose, not that they're going to get reelected, but for the purpose that it's genuinely the right thing that our democracy needs. And we're facing we're facing a problem with legislators having any degree of courage to do the thing that needs to get done in any given moment. They're not meeting the moment almost at any moment. Uh, and yeah.
Would you consider making the Seattle Democracy Voucher Program part of your platform, where every voter receives these vouchers to donate to campaigns? and it would really minimize a lot of the big money stuff. You're putting some cash, which can only be used for political purposes, into the
Yeah.
hands of average people. So
Hmm.
politicians have to go out and actually appeal to real people instead of being on the phone constantly trying to
Yep.
raise money. Would you consider looking at that?
I
And
would, I would look at it. As I said. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to approach campaign reform that's going to both increase the vocal power and the political power of average people, and be able to drown out some of the corporate money that just comes in and swamps absolutely everything. So yeah, it was something I would look at.
yeah, well, look at it. I think it's the gold standard for campaign finance reform. I mean, there are other
Hmm.
options. I mean, I supported the bill. I actually was one of the sponsors of the small donation matching fund program in New York City. I was there when we first implemented it. It's okay. It's good. It's better than nothing.
Hmm.
You,
Yeah.
you still have lobbyists, and you still have people who do business with the city able to bundle money under that system, which
Yeah.
is problematic as far as I'm concerned. Uh, let's talk a little bit about foreign policy. Uh,
Hmm.
with this outrageous disaster that's going on
Oh.
in Iran, what is your take on it, and what would you do if you were a member of the House?
The war is illegal, period. It's unconstitutional. The war powers exist exclusively in Congress's hands, in Section 1, Article 4, I believe, the Constitution, and it's there for a reason. War powers was put into the House of Representatives because at the time, Senate wasn't elected directly. The House was, though, and they had to answer to the people if they were going to embroil America into a war. It was not designed for one person to start playing Call of Duty and just and taking the world's most powerful military and using it wherever the hell he wants to. He bombed 8 countries in the first year, 7 countries, more than any other president, and now started an actual regional war that is having far-reaching consequences. They're occupying southern Lebanon. Thousands of civilians have been killed. Millions have been displaced. Economically, the world is reeling. The markets are reeling. There's instability. There's strain of our alliances. Um, it's a disaster in every way. It could be any campaign like this can be a disaster. Congress needs to actually be Congress. They need to return to being a co-equal branch of government and stop this. Remove the authorization for the use of military force. The president has the latitude when we are, immediately in danger, an
Mhm.
imminent threat to do something to prevent that, and still has to report to Congress on that. And then they have to vote on that later as well to keep approving whether or not it's going to be a continued action. We're nowhere even remotely close to this. We're just at this point. I mean, the Constitution is just a mere whimsy and an idea. And Congress has not stepped up as authority and legislated a stop to this, which is what they need to do. There needs to be an immediate stop. There needs to be an immediate pullback. We can't say, "Oh, well, now we're there. We have to continue." No, it's not like that. Um, so, I mean, going forward, yes, removing the authorization for use of military force, re-examining Congress's role specifically in foreign warfare, and making sure that there is a very short leash on the executive to get our military involved in what can turn out to be a literal generational conflict.
The good news is, and I'm speaking as somebody who supports, obviously, that the House turnover, is that this purple district, is very important in that whole process. It's the only
Hmm.
Republican district, congressional district in New York City, and if you or the Democrat were able to win here, it would be very helpful in helping the Democrats take over the House, because the
Exactly.
Republican House has been basically sycophants of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
which is a
And that's
disaster.
and that's our representative. She is non-functional. She goes on TV. She says whatever Trump says. She defends whatever Trump does, regardless of how unconstitutional or illegal or inhumane. Um, and she's not as popular as people think she is. I think that that's something that needs to be stressed. This isn't somebody who is, an entrenched incumbent who's super popular in his district. No, there's absolutely room here. And one of the things I think is going to help in the overturning the district here, or flipping the district, is the fact that this is a vital seat. We do need to flip every Dem seat, and when we have something that's within reach, it's going to garner national attention if we have the right candidate doing it. If we have somebody who is, not just good on paper, but has the ability to communicate, like you said, to be able to communicate those ideas to the district, to be persuasive, and to take on Nicole. Nicole has been there. She's a seasoned Trump national figure. This is somebody that you do need to understand the district. You need to understand her and understand the best way to actually get this thing flipped.
Well, I think Trump's favorable rating around 30%, and her closeness to Trump, there's a real opening here
Yeah.
for the Democrat. The other foreign policy issue you mentioned, Lebanon, and what's happened in Gaza, and what's happening in the West Bank.
Yeah.
This district has the largest Palestinian population in New York City, especially in Bay Ridge, my old district. Very large,
Yeah.
very active, especially since Mayor Mandani was elected. They came out in large numbers. And one of the major issues that we're seeing across the country now, and even some Republicans are rejecting AIPAC money, which is the Israeli lobby, and the influence they have in the House and in the Senate. Will you be rejecting any money from AIPAC?
Yeah, I'm not taking any APEC money, period. I don't see how it's reasonable that any foreign government can fund American lawmakers and influence decisions they're making domestically that have foreign implications with their country. It makes zero sense.
I think that will be not only the right position, but also, systemically speaking, the more popular position as well. Because
Yeah.
Cory Booker, who's been the senator from what's been a
I
supplicant.
saw he's stopping. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want any PAC money, so that tells you something. These guys are polling.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you should. Just giving you my advice. I think you should, make sure that that's out there publicly, and while supporting the two-state solution, Palestinians and Israelis living in peace in their own territories according to international law. I think the fact that what's happening in Gaza, where Palestinians have been massacred, and also what's happening in the West Bank, where settlers are just moving in and taking
The evictions. Yes. Yeah.
it's beyond belief. And I think you should talk about that a lot. It's also taxpayer money that's funding this, American taxpayer money, which again is outrageous. You have people like Tucker Carlson and right-wing influencers who are Joe Rogan, who are basically attacking that very action that from our politicians. And I think the incumbent here, Nicole, is very tied into that APEC.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
important.
She receives a lot of APAC funding, and we have to also, because you're looking at Israel, you look at the Middle East, we have to view this nation like we would any ally or any other country. They don't have special rights. They have to adhere to international law. They have to adhere to basic human rights. They have to respect these, and we should react as we would with any other nation. Everybody should be on the same equal footing when it comes to this. And so
Yes.
it's really, we don't, we have, now let me rephrase that. I know we have special relationships with certain countries that we are closer allies with, NATO allies. I get that. But if any other country did this, we would be trying to get them to stop. We would be trying to put pressure on them. And so we have to kind of get it out of our heads that this is some special place that's off limits to any type of regular diplomatic discussion, off limits to any criticism in regards to foreign policy, and be able to discuss it like we would any other nation.
Yes. I think I agree with you, obviously, and I think you should definitely talk about that during the campaign. What about local issues on Staten Island and South Brooklyn? What do you think are the issues that locally need to be addressed and not being addressed?
Well, I think that, I mean, locally, I'm going by a lot of what people had told me last year. We actually, when we did our events, we asked people, what are the things you want to talk about? What are you most concerned about? Um, and immigration was a very large issue. Dealing with the immigration issue, dealing with ICE, uh, education was a big issue. Healthcare is a big issue. So the things that I'm talking federally, there are a lot of local issues that we discuss, but things that I would not have a direct influence over, but can advocate for.
But
But
yeah, could have.
federally, those were the big ones. Yeah.
You could have. I mean, as you know, when I was a council member, I was getting calls on federal issues, state issues. So you're going to get you win this seat. You're going to have to deal with with a plethora of issues across that you don't have any jurisdiction over. But as a member of the House, you can have a lot of influence. Yeah, on a local level, the issues that you mentioned, the federal issues, but you can have these local issues as well.
Yeah.
Transportation, right? That's
Yeah.
that's a big issue on Staten Island. That's a big issue. Express buses and
Yeah.
price of express buses and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to deal with that, as you know. The
Absolutely.
fundraising, how's that going?
It's going well. I mean, we're hitting our benchmarks. I think that, for the primary, we're looking to raise about $250,000, and we're on track. And I think that one of the difficulties when you're running against the machine, when you're running against establishment, is getting those donations. But we've been very heartened by the fact that we've gotten a lot of small dollar donations from around the nation. We're starting to get more into the general consciousness, and we're also out there. We're pretty much everywhere and trying to be. And trying to be responsive and trying to listen to a lot of the people in the community so that they understand what's going on in this race, what the important issues are, and that we're listening to them to see what they want to discuss, what they want to talk about, and bring them into the process.
Who's managing your campaign?
Nidhi Khanna. Nidhi Khanna is she's a former federal PAC director. She's an Obama campaign alum from '08. She's worked on a lot of federal, state, and local campaigns. She's local. She's from Staten Island, and she also co-organized all the events with me last year, all the No Kings, the town halls. So she's a great organizer and she's a great manager.
How much staff do you have besides the manager?
Well, right now we're running mostly volunteer staff. We have a very large staff of a little over 10, but it's mostly volunteer because we only started fundraising. I think you remember that the district wasn't the district until like the second week of petitioning, and so um, we were trying to get some guidance as to where we were going to start petitioning from the Board of Elections, from the courts, and we finally decided to start. And then Brooklyn was folded back in, so we didn't actually start fundraising until about the second week of petitioning. So we're raising money as we would any campaign, and then once we start getting more, we'll start bringing on more staff and expanding.
Why why is the party endorsing someone else in the race?
I have absolutely no idea. I would, I was not afforded an opportunity to interview as a candidate. We requested it, but that was not done. And so, I mean,
You
it
mean
was something that.
you weren't even
Mhm.
granted an interview?
No,
You were not.
I met with the committee before I was a candidate for just approximately a couple of minutes. There was no in-depth anything. But as a candidate, when I was announced, when I formed my committee, I haven't had any discussions with them. No.
Discussions with them. One. One of the criticism I've heard about your candidacy is that, well, Mike's a good guy, but he's attempted to run before, never follow through. So what's
Mhm.
different this time?
Well, the first time I ran, there was an 8-way primary.
Primary.
It was impossible to break loose. And when I realized at a certain point that I didn't have the infrastructure to go forward for the good of the district, I backed out and I backed another Democrat, endorsed them, and started working for him. Um, I find that to be, kind of a normal thing to do if you're facing the situation. The second time I ran, I was very excited to run, and Max Rose got back into the race.
Right.
And Max Rose was funding out of the same pots that I was, and there was no way I was going to be able to compete with that amount of money. We're talking about money in politics. There it is. And I could have spent 8 months giving speeches and putting my family through hell, and expending my own personal time and money and everything. And I didn't feel at that time there was any path, and because there wasn't a path, again, my intention was to flip the district, and so I backed out, and supported the candidate as they tried to flip the district and do what I could there. So when it comes to, whether or not I stay in it or don't stay in it, there are very two specific circumstances where I did not have a path, recognized it, and did what was best for the district at the time, because that's what I felt was needed in order to flip it. I'm here to flip it this time. I have infrastructure. I have a team. I'm fundraising. I have the best resume anywhere to run in this district. I'd really struggle to find somebody who has deeper roots on both sides of the district, who's lived and worked on both sides of the district, who has the breadth and depth of experience in public service that I have. Third generation union. This is one of the largest union populations in the U.S. Um, and so there's some very real things, and plus I've lived a life that's recognizable. That's a big difference between me and I'm a renter. I don't own my house. I know what it's like to have to find a place that fits your family. When my wife got cancer when she was 30 years old, I had problems paying Con Ed. I had problems. I had an 8-month-old baby at home. And so trying to balance taking care of her treatments, having her miss work and not get fired, me trying to figure out how to get all of the, and pay for absolutely everything. And with good insurance, I still had incredible co-pays to take care of that took us years to take care of. So these are things that people in the district can recognize. They see somebody who says, I want to do this job, but I've also been where you've been. I've done the jobs that you've done. I've commuted on the ferry. I've ridden those express buses. I've also ridden the R train a million times. And I know what it's like to live here, to rent here, to navigate life here. And because of these shared real life experiences, I'm going to be able to represent you better because I really get it.
Yeah, Mike, that's all those are all excellent points that if people get to know you across a district, you certainly can. A lot of people, deal with illness in their families and
Hmm.
live check in this district. This is not. This is basically a middle class, working class district, and
Yeah.
all of those characteristics that you described can be very helpful in this election. Um, so, uh, how do people reach out to you? And if they want to volunteer, if they
Hmm.
want to, what do they have to do?
They can start by going to DeCillisForCongress.com, DeCillisForCongress.com. And from there, you can link to either volunteer, you can donate. You could also find out more information about me. I've also got many different items of where I've been in the news. There's dozens of clips in there. And then also you can reach out on my social medias. I'm pretty much on every single platform. If you just look up my name, Mike DeCillis, you're going to find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X. Unfortunately, I don't like X, but I have to be there. Um,
Yeah,
it's
I feel I-
yeah. So, and I'm even on TikTok everywhere. So you'll find me on those things, and they can reach out either through my socials, DM us, or you can send us an email at decillisforcongress@gmail.com. We're very responsive, and all that information's available on the website.
well, listen, I appreciate you coming on and talking about your campaign, and people uh, through these podcasts and other venues, and we'll get to know you better.
Hmm.
And I think hopefully you can raise the funds to compete.
Yeah.
That's been my issue over these. When I ran for mayor, that was one of my problems. I did very well locally when I was a council member. When you,
Hmm.
as you know, run for Congress, it's a whole different
It's a
ballgame.
whole different ballgame. Understood. Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah.
I I I wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail.
All right. I'll see you out there, Sal.
Great, have a great day, Mike.
Take care.